The Rhinoceros by Thomas Winding. I'll never forget when the wild animals came to Venice. A real lion, an elephant, and more than that, there was a rhinoceros. "Oh dear," said Mother, "we have got to go and see that monster. It is most likely to be terrifying, but we must show courage. There's always something to be learnt from animals." However, as soon as she had uttered these words, she fell ill. At first it was simply a pain in the toe, then it was the head, and all of a sudden it was her stomach. Then it became crystal clear that it was a toothache, and Mother needed medication. "It will probably be preferable to pull the tooth out," said the doctor. "One feels no pain in a tooth that is no longer there." "Pull it out!" exclaimed Mother. "It is my best tooth." When it rains, it really pours. So my mother decided to visit a fortune teller who could see if any other misfortunes were to occur. "My, oh my, I see lovely times ahead of you. Lots of money will get spent, and the carnival, there may even end up in a falling in love, a romance," said the fortune teller. "What nonsense," replied Mother, "for I am already married." But when we left, she couldn't quite help herself to think who could possibly be pert enough to fall in love with her, and although the carnival had not quite begun, she decided nevertheless to wear a mask when she promenaded around in the streets. Then we went to visit my grandfather, whose birthday it was that very same day. Whilst we drank hot chocolate, he asked my uncle to play the lute. "Oh, no, really?" said Uncle. "Oh, yes, really," said my grandfather. Even though my grandfather couldn't hear a thing, he smiled at my uncle and said it was wonderful. It sounded awful. Uncle replied, "Well, be happy you can't hear what I'm playing." And he carried on. "Now we will get to see the rhinoceros," I thought to myself. But alas, no. We first had to visit a gentleman who once had proclaimed his love for Mother. "All men fall for me," she said. "They're simply drawn to me. I presume I am irresistible." I believe she is. She really is irresistible. I think it's because she smells so lovely. She has hundreds of bottled scents, and she keeps buying new ones. As we walked home, she was yet again approached by a gentleman who jumped out in front of her and exclaimed, "Ooh, what an absolutely divine scent and heavenly perfume, madame." We had no idea who this gentleman was, or so we thought, because he was wearing a mask just like Mother. It turned out, however, to be Father, who just happened to pass by. All of a sudden he got an idea that Mother ought to be painted. He often had her painted, and he sent her portrait to all her friends for them to see just how beautiful she was. The dress didn't manage to get into the portrait. Oh, what a shame. I thought the dress was the prettiest of all. "No, the prettiest is my skin. The dress is just a commodity," said Mother. Then she remembered she couldn't go anywhere before her wig had been powdered. I do amaze myself. How do I manage to get it all done? Finally, Mother was as pretty as she could be. But then what should happen? We had unexpected visitors. It happens so often, and there's nothing to do about it. You can't just ask them to leave again, can you? And they stay for as long as it suits them. "We were just passing by," they said. "Oh, how perfectly wonderful. It couldn't have been a better timing," said Mother and Father. "We were so incredibly bored, and then you arrived." And when something is perfectly wonderful, it naturally has to get painted. Father sent for the painter who painted this painting. It is I, all the way in the back, in a red coat and brown hair. In front of me is my aunt, and it's my cousin with a wig. He's sniffing Mother and it all. No sooner had that moment been painted when more people arrived, and then we had to have some music, and once they'd started, others started playing cards. Dad is really quite good on the violin. If I weren't so incredibly rich, I would have become a musician, he often says. but wealthy people are always busy. There is so much that needs to be purchased. Whilst they performed, a servant sailed my cousin and I out to the mainland so we could go riding. We saw a turkey who ran for shelter when it was told to get out of the way. At home in Venice there are no horses, and if you are to get around in the city you either have to promenade or sail in a gondola. I mostly sail in a gondola, as I'm particularly keen on my shoes not getting dirty. Oh well, when I remember this specific day, it's not at all because we kept being deviated from what we originally had set out to do. No, this happens almost every day. No, I remember this particular day so well because we actually got to see the rhinoceros. Just before dinner, Mother wanted to go, and Father came along too. First we saw the lion and a man who played the violin. Best of the lot was some small dogs all dressed up and dancing with each other. "And what are we to learn from this?" asked Father. "From the lion we can learn calm and dignity," said Mother. "And from the small dogs we can, amongst other things, learn that one can have impeccable manners despite one's size. So even if you're very little, there is no need not to behave." Then it came to the rhinoceros. It stood there so quietly munching on some hay. The man who owned it, however, said it was a very, very dangerous animal. "Unfortunately, it has lost its horn, but here you can see how sharp and pointy it really is," and he waved it up and down in the air. "And what can we learn from that?" asked Father. "What we can learn," replied Mother. "Here we have a perfect example of how I would have ended up looking had I decided to have my tooth pulled out this morning."